I give the call to the Honourable Robin Scott.
Thank you, Madam Acting President. I would like to use my valedictory speech to report what I have observed over the last 4 years in my electorate and also in this chamber. I would like to first congratulate the government for winning a second term on the back of a very well-run campaign. My own campaign, as most will know, was unsuccessful, which has left me sad, disappointed and a little frightened. Sad because I was slowly getting the main issues addressed in regional Western Australia. I'm not a career politician, and I came into this place completely in touch with the views of the common members of the public, which sadly is something that some members in here seem to have lost. I did what I've always done in my career, and that is very simply work hard and do what the constituents asked me to do. I was building towards kicking some major goals for regional WA, but now I'm sad that I must leave that progress on the table. I'm disappointed because of how different things could and perhaps should have been. While the election campaign was well run by the government, I know that it would have been different if COVID had not come along, even though I think that Labour would still have won because it left the opposition as simply non-existing. The Liberals sadly did not give the voters an alternative. The Conservative views are alive and well in this state and this country, but we have no one to champion the cause, and at every opportunity are being out-yelled and outmanoeuvred by the Twitterati in a biased, degenerate media landscape. On the back of that, I'm frightened because I cannot see any green shoots of hope at the minute. I have repeated many times in this chamber that the only reason I became a politician was to improve the future of WA for my grandkids and everyone's grandkids. Now that I've seen how this government operates, I'm even more frightened than I was coming in. Let me say to the public, and it may come as no surprise, but the welfare of the people of this state comes second to the protection of the political careers of the furniture in here. Only the public has a mechanism to change the situation, if only they cared enough to do so. Over the last few years, the government has given chicken feed to regional WA, a few handfuls of grain here and there to try and keep them happy. And now with a double majority, the government can kick regional WA while it's down. The discussion of electoral reform is still hanging about, and informed sources have told me that electoral reform is all but a certainty. Let me say to the regional members of this government, you must stop this happening. You know that regional West Australia gets a raw deal in this place. You are inside the government and you need to prevent any dilution to reduce regional representation, because you know that it is purely politically driven and regional WA needs you to be better than that. While I'm talking about my electorate, I want to turn to some of the issues in regional WA which continue to go unaddressed. We're still struggling with alcohol abuse. People are now ordering their alcohol through the post. And I've said before, we could ban all alcohol orders from being delivered unless it was addressed to a licensed outlet or hotel. All it needs is someone in the government to sign it off. They could do that this afternoon. No real cost to the government, but it would save a lot of misery in regional towns. Antisocial behaviour is still going on, and many people are leaving regional towns for the safety of the city. Many are young families, frightened for their children who are being threatened at school. These are the people we're trying to encourage to move to regional towns. But until we get this problem solved, we will continue to see a decline of people wanting to live in regional towns. I have repeatedly asked for facilities that could house the children who walk the streets at night because they have no safe place to go, but so far, no luck. The sealing of major access roads is so slow. Many of these roads would benefit regional towns greatly. The Tanami Road would cut 1,000 kilometres off delivery from the eastern states, making goods cheaper for the residents of the Kimberley. These are important issues, but they're not the main issues. The main issue underlying so much else is the financial abuse and mismanagement by certain leaders of Aboriginal corporations who today are lining their pockets at the expense of their own people. I've been working on collecting the proof about this mismanagement. The fact that several different Aboriginal groups have made the same allegations was enough for me to sit up and pay attention. I want to put it on record that the government needs to investigate these corporations more and stop blindly trusting their report sheets. It was recently reported in the Sydney Morning Herald that the largest Aboriginal corporation in the Kimberley, the Mara Wara Wara Aboriginal Corporation, has not had a valid board of directors since 2017. Even worse, they have not been able to account for more than $28 million. Mr. Paul White from the Department of Communities defrauds the taxpayer of $25 million, and it makes headlines for weeks. Yet this scandal happens with the Mara Wara Wara Aboriginal Corporation, and it barely gets reported in any West Australian newspaper. The Kimberley Land Council sacked its CEO, Mr. Brian Wilkinson, after he pushed for greater transparency of the council's multi-million-dollar charitable trust. As a member of that region, I can tell you firsthand that the Kimberley Land Council is a crooked organisation that needs a few auditors and investigators to rip right through that place. If we continue to turn the other cheek and allow this behaviour to go on, nothing will change for the Aboriginal people. In the year 2021, for a white person to make a big deal about corruption in any Aboriginal corporation is seen as a racist. It's not about race, Mr. Deputy President. It's about honesty and transparency. The Aboriginal people suffer most from these financial disasters, and this weak state government and even weaker media outlets do nothing about it. In the goldfields, one of the main offenders is Mr. Cado Muir from Leonora. Mr. Muir is the chairman of the National Native Title Council, who is a very wealthy man, and he has his fingers in many government-funded pies. I've been told by many people in the area that he's up to all sorts of tricks. One of his favourite tricks is to create a songline where mining is being proposed. This then requires the mining companies to deal directly with him. If this government and previous governments cannot see what's going on with this system, then you are fools and you do not deserve to be in this chamber. All you have to do is go and speak to the traditional owners on your next trip to the regions, not the ones that are lined up to meet you when you step off the plane. No, just pop into any community unannounced and get a real feel for the hopelessness, the misery, the poverty, and at the same time witness the vandalism and the destruction that goes on due to a lack of jobs and community neglect. The government listens too much to the Cado Muirs and buys the BS when they say they speak on behalf of their communities. Just recently, in the Kimberley Echo, it was reported with joy, Mr. Deputy President, that 60 foreign workers arrived in Kununurra to fill the severely understaffed hospitality and agricultural sector. Thousands are unemployed, and here we are, celebrating giving jobs to foreigners. And then we have this government with a new Aboriginal Affairs Minister who says to me in this chamber that Aboriginal people don't want white fellas picking jobs for them. I don't want anybody picking a job for me, but the reality is I must work because that is what society expects. You give me and all my mates a fortnightly pay packet, and guess what? None of us will work. We'll go and sit under a tree and have a drink. Mark my words, this problem will get worse until the government changes its policy. Aboriginal empowerment is not working. The last 2 decades have showed that it's not worked. Stop this idealistic dreaming and get to work. Just because your skin is white does not mean you cannot help Aboriginal people with your own hands. Noted Aboriginal leader and politician Nyongai Warren Mundine commented recently in the Sydney Morning Herald. He said that so long as training programmes are not linked to job retention, and while bureaucrats make excuses for why the unemployed shouldn't have to work, people will continue to languish on welfare in a nation desperate for workers. And he was dead right. Tied into the first issue, the second issue that goes unaddressed is the amount of young Aboriginal children who are committing suicide in regional communities because of alcohol, drugs, and constant repeated physical and sexual assault. This crime continues today and is very rarely reported in the media. Because as one Kalgoorlie journal told me, we don't like to report suicides. Yet we have a scandal in federal and state politics where female employees allege sexual misconduct, and it makes national headlines for weeks. It seems that some scandals can be reported, but not others. These children are growing up in an environment where they see no future. They are given no hope of escaping their short, miserable lives and opt for the easy, quick release from their living hell. I only wish the members of metropolitan seats could see what I've seen in the last 4 years. Maybe then they might be spurred into doing something about this national disgrace. The government housing contract that my business held for many years was conditional, provided I would not disclose what I saw and heard in Aboriginal communities and homes. In the end, I handed back that contract as my conscience started to get the better of me. All these problems could be eliminated in time if we take a different approach and allow development of our resources. Take Fitzroy Crossing, for example. Fitzroy Crossing is screaming out for jobs, and again, nothing is done about expanding the pastoral industries or the agricultural industries. Hundreds of young Aboriginals are destined to a life on welfare, just like their parents. The main requirement to create many new jobs is water. We have billions of litres flowing into the Indian Ocean every year during the wet season, and not 1 litre of that water is saved to generate any new jobs or any wealth for the region. By capturing a little of that floodwater would provide so much more to all the people living in that area of WA. Since the 21st of December 2020, enough water has flowed into the Indian Ocean to fill Sydney Harbour more than 28 times. Yet not 1 litre is saved to help the people existing on welfare. Not one agricultural job has been created, and absolutely nothing to enhance the cattle industry. Do yourself a favour, members, and have a read of the discussion paper released by the government in November last year called Managing Water in the Fitzroy Catchment. It's the biggest load of amateur left-wing rubbish that you could ever read, and it was the result of not one government department, but 4 government departments, all collaborating. That tripe is the best they could come up with. It looks like the work experience kid put it together in a couple of hours. The annual waste of water, combined with the government's red and green tape, is absolutely crippling the West Kimberley. The economic and social chaos will only continue until we get smart and start using our resources wisely. The Kimberley Meat Works, which is a state-of-the-art facility and employs around 90 people, was closed last Christmas and won't open till March next year because of the lack of cattle. Better fodder production and feedlots in the Fitzroy catchment would assist the viability of this facility. All it needs is better water management. I've received emails and letters from people who support the Fitzroy River and they want to protect it. Many of these come from suburban Melbourne or the northern beaches of Sydney. They would not even be able to point out Fitzroy Crossing on a map. We need a proper plan to use the natural resources in the Kimberley sustainably. And I understand that while the traditional owners must have a say in the region's future, they should not have the only say or the final say. It was stated in this chamber that we should not allow a few billionaires to make more money by using the Fitzroy River to expand existing industries and introducing new industries. Without these billionaires, we would not have the thousands of jobs in the mining industry or many hundreds of jobs in the pastoral industries. We need to remember that when these billionaires pass on to the next world, their infrastructures, their enterprises will carry on into the future. One great example of that was Mr. Lan Hancock. Regional West Australia is and always has been the financial powerhouse for WA and for the rest of Australia for that matter. While the miners dig out exhaustible resources, we could be securing our future with a resource that replaces itself every year. We could easily become the food bowl for the rest of the world. As the world population mushrooms and countries struggle to feed their people, we could be the saviour of many starving nations and at the same time give our traditional owners the opportunity to join the workforce and become members of a regularly organised society. We already have the people who can make it happen. All we need is the right people in the government who want it to happen. To grow our state is no different to starting a business and growing that business and being successful at it, as I have been in my business. Unfortunately, I doubt there are many members in this chamber who have run their own show. Most have always been employees, and I know they will always be employees, always agreeing and doing what the boss tells them to. And if you don't, you're cut loose at the next election. I would really like to know when will we stop using the Aboriginal people as political footballs, as excuses for not doing something and turning the other cheek when it's evident that something is severely wrong and conveniently blaming federal government when it suits. The last 4 years have been the quickest years of my life and also the most exciting as far as work goes. I've been a boss for the last 30 plus years, but when I started in this chamber in May 2017, I was back being a first-year apprentice. I saw myself doing an apprenticeship in state politics, which turned out to be very different to what I originally expected. Except for a few members, I feel I had a good relationship with some members. This was not a job for me. It was my way of trying to put something back into regional West Australia in return for the most wonderful life I've had over the last 51 years. I look forward to seeing more of my grandchildren when finished with politics. I've not seen enough of them over the last 4 years. I'm not sure what my next mission will be, but be assured I will be doing only what I want to do. I might even go fruit picking or drive a bus or a truck, or even go back to working in the mining industry. Perhaps I will do more fishing down south for a while, or even take up golf, which I was never any good at, although I always did enjoy my day out at golf. I'd always start out with 6 golf balls of my own. At the end of the day, I would have at least 20 balls I found in the rough. None of them were my golf balls. They had all disappeared into the ether forever. I need to thank certain people who got me through the last 4 years. Without them, I would have floundered. I need to start with the Honourable Michael Mission, who helped me so much with the select committee into the Pingen station, which I chaired. I made a few errors and some people wanted me boiled in oil for my indiscretion. However, thanks to the Honourable Michael Mission and the Madam President, I lived to fight another day. Also, my part in uniform legislation, of which the Honourable Michael Mission was the chair. My first day at uniform legislation, I thought everyone was speaking a foreign language. They gave me a foolscap notebook to take notes. Mr. Deputy President, I couldn't even pronounce some of the words, let alone spell them. But I decided to use this committee to improve my grammar, my punctuation and my vocabulary. So thank you, Michael, for all your help in improving my English comprehension. He is now a friend whether he wants it or not. My office staff in Kalgoorlie, Miss Kerry Stones, my electorate officer, who kept me up to speed with what was going on in Kalgoorlie Boulder whenever I was in Perth or elsewhere in the electorate. Kerry came with much experience, and she had worked in the office of Wendy Duncan, and I was the one who benefited from her experience. I will worry about all the people who come to my office in Boulder every day for help from Kerry. It could be help with Centrelink, health agencies, or just filling in simple government forms that they need help with, or even help them to get home to Warburton or Jungjungjara. I hope the new guy will take up that role. Miss Chloe Parks, my research officer. Chloe came to my office with no experience in research or politics, but her youthful spirit and get-up-and-go attitude guaranteed she soon became a key player in my team. Both these ladies went above and beyond their duties and never complained when I asked them to work late, or when I asked them to pop into the office when I needed help at the weekend. And I say to them, thanks, girls. I won't forget the support you gave me at all the times, and you picked me up and dropped me off at the airport. Mr. David McDowell, my electorate officer, who travelled everywhere in the electorate with me, from Norseman to Columbaroo and everywhere in between. Some of our flights were 3 or 4 hours in the air, with the worst in-flight service you could imagine. You could only drink and eat what you brought along, but not once did he complain, and being newly married, he never kicked up when I asked him to bring a suitcase because we were going to the bush for a while. During the flight, we spent much of our time discussing the reasons for the trip, and when we landed, I was always full bottle on the issues and where we stood on the issues. David was a great electorate officer for me. He had done a similar role in federal politics, and I was the one who gained from all his experience, and he'll always be a good friend. To my family, they know I was never put on this earth to be a good father or a papa or a brother or even a husband. My role was a worker and provider. Every job I take on consumed my life. My father told me at the age of 15 that no matter what the job was, someone was paying your wages and you make sure you work hard and deserve those wages. My sisters, Gillian, my twin sister, and Sandra, my wee sister, they have always told me to slow down, spend more time with the family. This, of course, fell on deaf ears. I know they are very proud of me, but they don't say too much in case I get a big head, and I love them very much. All the politically correct headstrings will be shocked at this statement, because nowadays a father must stay home sometimes and has to cook dinner and do the washing. I would have loved to have done those things, however, it's all too late for me. But I know my family loves me for what I am, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. Julia, my fiancée, came into my life nearly 11 years ago when I spent much of my time on mine sites. We coped well with my time away on mine sites because when I was home, we made up for lost time and always looked forward towards holidays and weekends away. The last 4 years have not been easy because this job is 24/7. That is, if you want to perform well in your electorate. I normally go home to Scotland every year, but I haven't been home since starting this job, and holidays here in Australia have been few and far between. To the new members who believe that family comes first, well, you can chuck that theory out the window. To do this job properly will consume every waking minute of your life. Of course, you can choose to do only what is necessary, like some pollies in here, and still have the freedom of a normal life. It's going to be your choice. I now have the opportunity to make up for lost time. And believe me, I will be working hard to make up for the lost time for Julia and my family. I wouldn't say lost time because nothing has been lost. Every day I went to work, it was to try and accomplish something, either in mining or politics. What I hope to lose is the extra 5 kilograms of blubber I've gained during the last 4 years due to the good food and lack of exercise. Last week, someone asked me what I would have done if I ever was a minister in state parliament, and my reply was easy. It would be like winning $50 million on the lotto, and I would make so many people happy. To Nigel Pratt and all his chamber staff and the people who make this place work, thank you. To Hansard, thank you for the fantastic job you do, sometimes under very difficult conditions. I want to thank the catering staff for all the delicious meals I and my visitors enjoyed, and of course the gardeners who make it a pleasure walking into the building. To the security people who kept us safe from many events which mostly went unnoticed by the Pollies. Rob Hunter and his staff who do so much that's not recognised, I thank them. To everyone I have forgotten to thank, I apologise. Well, that's the end, folks. I feel that I can cancel this contract, knowing I asked no favours and made no deals to try and secure my job, so I can leave here with my head held high. And I would like to leave you with these parting words. May the best you've ever seen be the worst you'll ever see. May the mouse in your pantry never leave with a tear in his eye. And may your chimney always smoke till you're old enough to die. And may you always be just as happy as I wish you now to be. Thank you.
To the Honourable Robin Scott, I'm sure the House joins together in wishing you the best for the future. And if I may observe from the chair, out in the electorate you might have beaten round the bush, but you've never beaten round the bush while you've been in here. Good luck to you in the future, sir.